Thank you and good afternoon. It's such a powerful panel. We have two professors on this panel, in case you've not noticed. I would like to call on the first professor, who is the lead discussant, to take charge, and after some 10-15 minutes of his thoughts, then we come back to the panel to share. So, Prof, sir, over to you.
Good morning, or we are now in the second part of the day. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be talking about the globalization. We look at the advantages and disadvantages, especially in Africa where we are now, so that we'll be able to project into the future. I will start from this angle, saying that the second half of this century is for Africa, and globally they are talking about that. How do we get fitted and get prepared for this scheme? The setting of the agenda is starting with the what I will call the presentation. Number two, what globalization is all about, so that some of our students who are here, they have been hearing about globalization. What is it about? The third one is what are the advantages and disadvantages of this issue of globalization, and what are the drivers of globalization's opportunity? Number five, where in the world is Africa fitted into concerning this issue of globalization? Number six, if globalization is what we are talking about, then we look at the Industrial Revolution. Where can we fit into this issue of Industrial Revolution? The seventh one is about the present global talent market in this area of globalization. Can Africa actually get fitted into the issue of globalization? Number nine, where is Lagos going to fit into in this area of globalization? Can Lagos become the digital talent base for Africa and for Nigeria? So I will start with the first one, and that is, what is globalization? Depending on the way you look at it, if you look at the definition of IMF, saying that the growing economic interdependence of countries worldwide through the increasing volume and a variety of cross-border transaction in goods and other elements that can be used for transaction. And if you look at the way the WHO look at it, they are saying that it's the increased interconnectivity and interdependence of countries and also people. But UNESCO said that globalization is a set of economic and social, including technological, political, and cultural structures and processes of interaction between one country and the other, and between people from one country and another country. Now, what are the pros and cons? The pros and cons of globalization. I always tell people one thing, for those people who are above 50 years here, before we start talking about cell phone. You know, in the past, somebody can just go to one village and come back, and they will take the picture of that person at the airport, and they will say, we went for global competition, and we are back with the World Cup. But now, if you say anything like that, it's just a matter of some of these young guys going to online and go to the search machine and go and look out for that competition if it actually took place. So you can understand what I'm talking about when we are saying this issue of globalization. So what are the pros and cons? Let me take another example quickly, because I have been lecturing in the University of Lagos for the past 32 years now. When I came into the system, it was very easy for you to teach students and to walk out of the classroom. But now, as you are talking to the student, I want you to know that the students are searching. When you mention any topic, they will go and search, and making sure that you did not, there is no plagiarism. And if there is any plagiarism, they will turn you to, you know what I mean? And that lecturer will now get annoyed, not knowing that as he's talking, the students are searching to know if that lecturer is original in the presentation. So looking at it from that angle, you now look at what are the pros and cons concerning the issue of globalization. The first one is that the better standard of living, that is global access to information. I've given you two examples now. Information, you have people who are working, who are staying in Nigeria. I know of somebody who is in this country and is working for 2 companies outside this country. So you can see that that is one advantage of this issue of globalization. Then you have the larger market for goods and services across the borders. You don't need to stay in UK to order for any, to go to Harrods, to go and do your shopping. Right here in Lagos, either you are in Shomolu, you are in Mushin, you are in VI, you can order for your product anywhere in the world and you will get it. And they will not say that because you are ordering for that product from Mushin, will not attend to you. We prefer to attend to somebody from VI. No, as long as you have your money to transact your business, they will be ready to attend to you. The other advantage is in the area of education, knowledge, and other factors that are related to this. Now, somebody will be in Lagos and you'll be able to attend to any lectures outside the country, within the country. I remember when the federal government gave the directive that schools should resume in Nigeria in 2020 after the COVID issue. We look at it in the University of Lagos and we came to the conclusion that there are things that other universities will do and they will get away with, which we cannot do it in Unilag. I always give one example of a university in this country, the vice chancellor knowing that the non-teaching staff were on strike, and the following day they are going to lock up the gate. What he did was to direct some people to go and remove the gate before the following day. If you try it in the University of Lagos, even CNN will carry the news because of our location. So what we did was to bring in the issue of virtual learning, and we started our lectures online, did our exams online. So some of those students that were abroad, that were locked down abroad, sorry to use that word, lockdown, who were outside the country, they were able to do the exams outside the country. And even now, in the University of Lagos, a class that is higher than 500, we split it into 2 so that they can have their lectures virtually. But in the past, when we were younger, in the system, you talk about virtual learning. Say, no. You talk about integrity, you talk about all those things, but you can see what COVID brought into focus. The other advantage is the opportunity to work closely together through technology platform. Then what are the disadvantages? The disadvantages. Number 1, unhealthy competition for Africa. Unhealthy competition for Africa. And that is why we need to get it right. We need to get it right in Africa. The second one, which is very sad, but which has come into focus, that is the erosion of African culture as a result of globalization. You just imagine now that because of the issue of globalization and what the children are viewing online, you see a child telling the father, a child telling his mother, eyeball to eyeball, mommy, is it true? I just imagine when we were younger, for you to tell your mom or to tell your dad, eyeball to eyeball, is it true? I'm sure if you are closer to that dad, you will see star that day. Because by the time he gives you what we call a dirty slap, next time you will not say eyeball to eyeball. But now these children will tell you, or even tell the lecturer, what you are presenting, I think, you will not even say, I think, is faulty. Say, excuse me, sir. Say, yes, what do I say? Say, what you are saying is wrong. But you know, in our time, if you say that, you are going to earn F at the end of the day. The third disadvantage is reduced sovereignty of African states because of this problem of globalization, and also increased inequalities. Let's look at the drivers of globalization. Advancement in technology. Every day you find out that the iPhone that you bought last year, this year again they come up with another one, the one that you don't need to use SIM card, and if you are using Airtel, they have not migrated to that platform. Maybe MTN has migrated to that platform. So you can see the issue of advancement in technology, which is part of the reason why we have a program like this. The cost of this is on the high side now. Then there's competition. Apart from competition, you have the international trade. We just saw what happened in Dubai. Like I told you several years back, if you talk about Dubai, it's as if you are going to somewhere that is outside this planet. But right now in your room, in your bedroom, you look at activities going on in Dubai. And also the issue of international investment. And you can see the investment coming into Lagos through a platform like this. That is the Art of Technology platform. Let's look at the issue of Africa and globalization. We are coming home now gradually. Africa and globalization. How ready is Africa for 2050? Because the direction the world is looking at now is Africa. But are we ready? So part of this program is to get Africa, to get Nigeria, to get Lagos ready for that big vision. Has Africa taken sufficient advantages of globalization? I would say no. Number two, has Africa actually benefited from the issue of globalization? I would say no. Number three, will the world wait for Africa to catch up? I would say no, because now there's nobody that is waiting for any other person. And you can see that the part of the advantage of putting up a program like this. And now let us go to the issue of industrial revolution that we have been talking about. As far back as 1800, we talk about the first industrial revolution. The second one started in 1870. The third one started in 1969. We are talking about the fourth industrial revolution. Is Nigeria ready for the fourth industrial revolution? We are still, I'm a scientist, I will tell you that we are still struggling with the fourth industrial revolution. And that is the reason why we need to appreciate the governor of Lagos State for putting up a program like this so that we can get ready for the fourth industrial revolution. What are my thoughts concerning the discussion that we are going to have? Number one, opportunities abound for us in the present global talent market. There are opportunities. I want you to know that these young ones that we have now, like I did mention earlier on, that some of them who are our students, even concerning what we do in the University of Lagos now, these children, these young ones, they have mad ideas. I want to quote the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy. Always say that these youths, these Nigerian youths, are full of ideas. They have mad ideas. And bringing up a program like this is to make sure that we harness those ideas to the benefit of the state, to the benefit of this country, so that those ideas will not go into the cemetery. The second point is Nigeria must lead Africa to rise up to the expectation. With our population, you are talking of a population that is over 200 million. We need to take advantage of that population. We need to take advantage of the size of the people that we have in this country. And we need to also appreciate Lagos State for what they have put together. In this country now, you have the highest population of people who are really active in every of this space in Lagos State. So we need to do everything possible to get every one of these young ones on board so that they will be able to generate funds. They will be able to employ people that will work with them. The third one, the time is now for us to be proactive and act. This is the time. So I want to encourage all the young ones who are here. This is your time. Don't look at what other people are saying. Like somebody said yesterday, I'm not saying if you want to japa, you can japa. But once the pipe is full of this, the flow in the pipe is full, you find out that wherever you are all over the world, you will always be relevant. Lagos must take our place concerning this. And I'm encouraged that we are really getting fitted so that Lagos State will take our place on this. And a program like this is to activate that potential that is in this youth, to activate the potential so that you not go to sleep. You know that there are challenges locally and globally. And I want to encourage you youth in Nigeria, whether you believe this or not, the labor market in Nigeria is still cheap. And most of these companies are moving out of, I don't want to mention those countries, they are moving out of, let me mention one now, Malaysia. They are moving out of Malaysia because it's expensive for those people to be maintained there. They will prefer to come to countries like Nigeria. So you need to get yourself ready and latch into that opportunity. So the time is now for you to act. The time is now for you to get ready. The time is now for you to use that opportunity and move to the next level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogudikwe, for the depth of insight and the inspiration that you're giving to all young people here who have listened. So our conversation, once again, is globalization, advantages versus disadvantages, Africa's role in the globalized talent market. And from one professor to another professor, the Associate Dean of Lagos Business School, my professor, Professor Olayinka David West, I would like to ask, how can our learning system attribute to the qualities of a market in Nigeria? For this conversation we're having, how can our learning system, attribute to the qualities and help us, to build this global talent?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I think this is my first, actually, so this is a terrible confession. Now, being a learner as well as a provider of learning, I'll come at it from the provider side first. Learning is really in three domains. Cognitive learning, which is what do we know, right? What do we teach? What do we transmit? There's also a psychomotor domain in terms of what do we do? Because there's a lot of activity that we need to learn, and this is where the skills comes in. And then the third side of learning that we often ignore is the affective domain. How should we feel? One of the things about learning is that it has to excite you. It's not something that you should feel that you have to go through torturous, arduous moments to learn and engage, because it's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know that drives economic activity. Yeah. And that's one thing we always need to put on the table. So peer learning is important. Reverse mentoring is important, because today there's a lot we're learning from the millennials that we didn't learn in school. So we have to open our minds to the fact that learning can come top down, bottom up, or any direction. So going back to how do we do this and learning strategies, first of all, I think it's really, and I think this came out in the last panel, how do we build a collaborative ecosystem? Because this is not one person to do it alone. How do we build a collaborative ecosystem, number one? Number two, how do we envision what we want learning to look like and what we want learning to be able to do for us, right? The vision is important, and then being deliberate and intentional about how we're going to do it and who is going to do what. Because there's a lot of partners on the table, but it's also ensuring that we're not replicating, but we're actually slicing up the cake and ensuring that we're moving the needle further on. The next thing we also need to think about is how do we build both sides of the market? And I say both sides of the market is we need to think about the supply side, which we're thinking about how do we build new talent, new skills, especially the skills of the workforce of the future. But then again, I think this came out in the last panel as well. How do we build the demand side? You know, we're thinking about global talent, but don't forget that we still have local companies and local economies to develop. How do I ensure that the 42 million micro, small, and medium businesses can also begin to thrive using the digital capabilities that we're creating? So for me, it's also about increasing the absorption capacity of our local economies to ensure that we can build. And together with the supply side and the demand side, you find out that the social and institutional problems we have in Africa, the solutions will only come from Africans. They're not going to come imported from anywhere. So we need to build them locally. So if you want to Jakwa, we're going to Jakwa, but we're going to build other people's economies. How do we ensure that we retain the talent here to build our own economies? And then that also makes Nigeria, Africa, part of the global economy, not just the global workforce. Thank you.
Yeah, well, very well said. Very well said. Very well said. Just to mention that if you are trying to put your hands together, do it so we know that's what you are trying to do. Thank you. Very well said. So let me go to Olumide Balogun, the head of Google Consumer Apps in Sub-Saharan Africa. Let's scale it down to the individual now. What must one do to accelerate a globalized talent? What should one do in this conversation?
You know, I think a lot about my experience in technology and having been in the room, you know, since morning and with all the conversation, I feel a little bit like there's a lot of blame going around the room. I feel like these young people saying the government is to blame. And then I feel like government is saying, you know, the young people are not taking enough opportunity. And then the private sector, maybe as well, you know, the government or people could say that we're not doing as much. You know, when you say you there, the perspective of you is the perspective of where you sit. If we don't take anything away from this conference, please let us take away the fact that there's something that everyone can do. It's not a marketing campaign. It's not a campaign to come and blame shame. Because the fact is, everyone has a part to play. So let's not make this a, you know, we came and then we talked. We have to think about, I'm going away from this Art of Technology conference. What can government do that we're not already doing? And I think one of those things are, how do we build an enabling environment? How do we build the right policies that are not considered extractive policies? They say vision is the ability to see the invisible. What are we not seeing? I mean, we're very privileged to be here and we're talking about human capital development. So that's progress. How do we do that in an accelerated manner? And I think that that's what I would like for government, you know, to take away, government officials here, because at the end of the day, we also have families. And if nothing at all, we want to leave a legacy. So when we build these policies, it's important for us to make sure that we have the right people in the room who are contributing to the policy. Because I dare say, and I work in technology, I always say that my job, I am in the business of helping large tech companies understand African users so that we can build products for them. But that means I need to understand users. I can't build for who I don't understand. Now, when it comes to individuals, you have to understand the young people in the room. What policies did we build before we exported Afrobeat. There were no policies, largely. But today we all talk about the fact that we go and we hear Buga or we hear Davido and we're excited and it gives us pride. So we have to build that road. You have to be committed to that. Because if you spend time talking about the things you cannot control, largely, you will forget the things that you can. Now, for private institutions, I think it's important to think about how you also add value and create value. They say a rising tide lifts all boats. You know, I'm not here to, talk about some of the things that Google has done. But I always say to the team, it's not about us. We consider ourselves a thought-leading organization. How do we make sure that we're inspiring other organizations to do that? This year, we invested $4 million in 60 startups, non-equity funding. So they get $100,000, $200,000 in cloud credits. I like Prof was saying to me down when we were talking, she was like, how do we make sure that we're supporting these businesses and we're not just handing them cash? Because financial discipline is something that we don't teach in schools. Yeah. You're an MD of a company, you have 3,000 users, the next thing is you want a Prado car. Because the MD of Zenith Bank is... So private organizations need to think about how we also contribute to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us remember, when we focus on the things we can't control, then we are unable to focus on the things we can control. So in taking personal responsibilities, let us focus on the things that we can control. So from the place of taking personal responsibility to a question I'll be asking the founder of Ideation Hub Africa, Adebola Dejikorome, we would like to call her DDK. The question is, so how can we position our African talent, at the global feet? How do we now begin to do that?
Position our local talent in a globalized economy. I think that all the things we've heard today are sort of leading us to big conclusions. And I'm hopeful that part of the role that our panelists or our moderators will play will be to highlight those big outcomes. I would love to speak about that positioning within the globalized economy along 3 lines. The first is we have to be careful about the premium or the focus that we're placing on the global economy and the role of African talents. We cannot transition to the conversations around what the future looks like for our talent in the global economy if we haven't highlighted what the future looks like or what today can mean for our talents within African economies. Except we start to have conversations around what a young person is required to do and how they are meant to show up when they're within a Nigerian, locally founded MSME, we cannot transition to talking about positioning within the global economy. Because we're creating a monster unconsciously. We're having all these global conversations that is heightening the aspirational index of the average young person. Everybody wants to get into Google and Microsoft and Apple, but the young 23-year-old fresh out of school is not able to give their best within an Abiola Champ and Co. or within a DDK Ventures. Everyone is within these small businesses, and they're not looking at these organizations as a perfect context to grow expertise, to grow discipline, to grow capacity and skills, and maximize the ability for problem solving and intrapreneurship. This is what I am saying. You are seeking an opportunity to work within a significantly specialized context of the global economy, where you are just placed within a particular unit and it's all a vertical. But you don't know what really helps you grow that specialization. Is you're working in a four-man business, you see, and you are sometimes the training manager, sometimes you are in Isaleko buying the pens and looking out for you know, you're the branding manager as well. You are sometimes on social media. You're submitting requisitions. You are in big meetings with stakeholders who think that you guys are that big, but it's just that multilateral expansion of possibilities because you are everywhere. Now, I'm going to give a simple example. I worked within a small consulting business when I started out my career, and I was a HR person. And in that role, within 2 years, I had gone through the entire value chain of human resource consulting. I was some days in performance management, some days I was in benefits and compensation, some days I was in training, you know, some days I was doing HR matrix management, just playing around because we were just a few hands. And the CEO, she know the look face. She's just like, Debola, how far? Work on it. You see. But the average young person today is like, I mean, you are paying me 70,000, you want to kill me. And they're permanently online looking for that remote product management role. We are creating a monster of so many half-baked local talents earning in dollars in this vast remote space. And the moment you have just a certain degree of that tech expertise, there is a project you can jump on, but you are not exactly a full-rounded, comprehensive talent that can really play in the global economy. So let's fix home and let's raise a new generation of serious-minded, visionary young people who take their work with a sense of CEO-grade ownership. That's the first thing. And I think it's a really important thing. You know, because I'm a young, small business owner myself, and every time that I am paying these millions of naira, going out in monthly salaries, I know that some people on my team think they're earning 120 and they're feeling underpaid. But I'm just shaking my head like, you better maximize this opportunity to learn and grow because you really think that your commercial value is very high. But it's not that high. It's not as high as you think it is. And when rubber meets the road and you are done with that particular project that you've been hired by the Indian or the American firm for, you're not yet a global talent and you're not that competitive. I would just speak to one more thing so that I can let my colleagues also share their thoughts. I think when it comes to positioning, because to balance it, we've got some extraordinary talent, and what a lot of global research is saying to us today is that Africa is becoming the hot spot and is becoming an emerging strong tech ecosystem that is going to revolutionize the global economy. And we reckon with that. When it comes to positioning, I have 3 subsets, and I will not break them down, but it's first in telling our stories better. And I know we hear it all the time, but the reason I know that one of the big reasons I still feel like we're not doing good enough with telling our stories is you have to see the average serial entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. And sometimes what they're working on is as simple as bathroom slippers. And you let them get into Dragon's Den, and you hear the way they talk about this thing. It blows my mind. I'm like, okay, Debola, you need to go figure out your story, because it's not pristine yet. And this huge investment revolution that is hitting the continent and all kinds of investments coming in, it's really about the power of storytelling. Sadly, we've had young African startup owners tell stories that don't match the value they're creating. But we have to tell our stories better and export a new brand about the continent that could awaken engagement. I think I will just stop here.
Okay.
But thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. But just to let you know that I'll still come to you to conclude the other 2. And it's great that you're talking about storytelling. One of the panels earlier, I think it's today or maybe yesterday, something came out about developing soft skills, and somebody mentioned communication skills, you know, which is essential. So for you to appropriately, the technical word is pitch. You know, for you to appropriately pitch your idea, it's about knowing how to communicate effectively. Like you said, somebody may be selling bathroom slippers, but the way they will share the story, you would see the vision, right? You see the vision in the heart of the individual. Okay, so from a lady to another lady, I'm reserving our hosts to be the last person I will ask the question. And that's the CEO and founder of People Capacity Management, Biola Ojo. So my question is, for organizations, how can they attract great talents to work with them?
Okay. Thank you for that question. I think that's a major question that a lot of CEOs are asking now. Everybody is concerned about how to attract talent. And I say that there is a lot of emphasis on trying to attract talent. At the same time, we also have to place emphasis on how to actually retain this talent. We all agree that there is a dearth of talent, right? And what I say to people is, it's congratulations. It means that the opportunities are there. So for everyone that is seated out here right now, it means there is an opportunity for you to shine. There's an opportunity for you to become a global talent. And when we talk about global talent, people believe that you become a global talent when you leave the shores of Nigeria and then you move to America or you move somewhere else. I say to my employees and I say to myself that I'm a global talent. Yeah. But I operate from Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm super proud of that. For organizations to be able to attract talent, one is, it's not just about being competitive. And I hear a lot of people talk about, you have to be competitive in terms of the salaries and the benefits. I happen to work in an organization in the past, Great Place to Work, and we were so concerned about, what actually keeps talent, and we realized from our survey over the years that people, as in as much as we say we want to earn better pay, you realize that a lot of people are actually not so concerned about the pay. What they are more concerned about is actually the workplace, the employee experience. They are more concerned about the culture that you promote as an organization. So if you are a CEO and you are concerned about how do you attract talent, I would say the first thing would be for you to ensure that you have a workplace culture that is good enough to be able to attract this great talent. You also want to be able to promote an organization where the employees within the business are super proud of the brand that they go out there and they are the ones advocating for you. So I can use my organization as a case study. The average age of employees within my business is they're about 23. And for everyone that we recruit into the business, you realize that the employees are the ones that say, I have this person, I know this person. They are super proud to refer people to the business. And the only reason why they can do that is because they enjoy the job they do. They love the culture that we promote as an organization. I say to people when we're running interviews for employees, we are not quick to take in people. I understand the fact that there is a dearth of talent, but then we are always watching out for that person that is eager to come to the office on a daily basis. So as part of one of the few things I say to people is, I can bet it with you that whatever remuneration that I give you will not be commensurate with the effort that you put into the job. I can tell you that for free. But one thing that will keep you coming back is the fact that you enjoy what you do, is the passion. And that is what I want to see in every employee that comes into the organization. So build a great workplace culture, ensure that the employee experience is great right from the onboarding process. Ensure that you also build a great network of an alumni, of people that have left the organization that are able to refer other people to your organization. I think that's the major thing that we have to do.
Very well said. Very well said. Just additional thoughts that in as much as organizations are seeking to attract great talent, it is also important for organizations to commit to developing great talent. It is very important, that we commit to developing great talent. And for the talents in the room as well, you are not great talent because your friends say so. You are great talent because you commit to learning. There's one of my favorite quotes says that the illiterate of the 21st century will be about those that cannot learn, relearn, and unlearn. So that you're a great talent, it means you commit to ongoing learning, relearning, and unlearning. And just another quick thought that while we're recruiting great talent organizations, we should also just be looking for people with the right attitude. Skills can be acquired. knowledge can be acquired, but attitude is key. And when that talent that doesn't look so great has the right attitude, and you commit to developing the person, you have a pipeline of great talent in your organization. Okay, I thought I deserve a round of applause for that too. So to our host, Mr. Olav Tubosun Alake, I know that there's been questions on the government, bashing left, right, and center. I just want to ask you, I know that one of the answers to this question is the AOT already, right? I just want to ask more so how can we sustainably provide a system that supports talent globalization?
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, let me commend all my colleagues on this panel. They've given fantastic contributions, fantastic answers. In fact, when my brother from Google and my sister here were talking, I said, maybe I should go and sit down now. So, but I think I work in the public sector now. But a few years ago, I was in the private sector. I think there is a common denominator that we address very little of, and it's culture, right? I have helped companies deploy ERP systems, applications, and things like that. We do similar things in the public sector as well. And I see, the differences and commonalities. And the differences between the public and the private are not the issue, but it's the commonalities. And there's a singular commonality I see, and it's culture. The question is, what kind of culture are we developing in Nigeria that can answer what is happening globally? Right? What kind of culture construct? And by culture, I don't mean Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, your colors, what you wear. No. Yeah. I'm talking about your value system, right? What you consider important. Your value system is what will get you up in the morning, right? Your value system, what you consider very, very important, is what would actually drive your economy. I've had this conversation a lot of times with different people across HR. I was in HR too for a number of years, and I saw the difference between a very productive worker and somebody that was just coasting. And it was the value mentality they had, right? It was, look, do I just quickly do this and get to that spot so that they can take it, and at the end of the month, my quarterly review says I've done it? Or do I really want to invest some time in bringing my teammates, right, to get to that place so that, we all get there, and, the sum of the, the parts is bigger than the whole. Yes. Do you understand? So it's the most important thing I think we are missing as even a country is culture, right? How do we measure on the delayed gratification side, right? As a country, right? Are we able to stop spending, right? Even in homes, are you able to say to people that, look, you need to tighten your belt for a bigger prize in 10 years, as opposed to, right now, let me quickly, and that would affect your learning. It will affect your productivity. It will affect how your country even develops products. I've been a product manager as well, and I can tell you some of the best product managers, right, have the longest, I've seen them have some of the longest leases of delayed gratification, right? And so for me, it's about not just teaching skills, but addressing the culture issue that goes in tandem with the hard skills. And me, I don't call them soft skills. I actually call them the hard skills, right? In Nigeria today, what is our definition? What is our value system on power distance index? How much do we tolerate inequality, right? That in itself can help you create products to equalize inequalities, right? Whether it's products for disabled people, right? Because you are so perturbed that disabled people are not able to enjoy the same things able-bodied people do, right? And so that inequality perturbs your heart. Then you start on a mission. You're like, you know what? I'm going to make sure that this person that can't talk, they get something that can. And then you go through. So culture, in my mind, is one of the ways we can answer the global question. Nigeria's culture needs to change. Thank you.
Okay, so very quickly, Olumide.
That's an incredible contribution, by the way, to Botswana. So there are things we need to do, intentional, practical things. Number one, I think it's important for the government to think about what are our values. You know, Prof was talking about the fact that with globalization, you cannot help the fact that there are things that will seep in. But when you have a value system that you communicate, for a lot of people growing up here, when you were leaving your home, your parents will tell you all the time, remember whose child you are. They will tell you, they ring it in your ear. So wherever it is that you go, irrespective of what is obtained there, you know what your values are. The problem we have with the country today is we don't know what our values are. Who are we? So I would like for the government to think about a campaign. Every day, we should be communicating it. We are hardworking people. We are creative people. We solve problems. And the more we do that, we change the programming. Because we've been programmed for decades. There are people here that have incredible ideas, but they cannot even voice it. Because the culture, me and Prof, we're talking about the fact that we love that this is a diverse panel.
Yeah.
Wherever I go, if I see that the panel is not diverse, I don't want to speak. We have to change certain things, and it's going to be with constant communication. So that one is an action point that I would like to put at the feet of the government.
With constant communication, and let me add, with constant modeling as well. We say it, we do it. Debola.
What my colleague has just shared is profound on many levels. And what we know about some of the most powerful economies in the world are those that pull themselves out of the drudgery of corruption and poverty and disadvantage into becoming world powers. They had to adopt a national vision, a national mission, a national value system. But here is what I want to add. As long as we place this premium on the government as the key drivers of a value reorientation or to be the champions of, a cultural rebirth, we are not going to get to where we want to go. There are people who are seated here who would write 8:38 a.m. as arrival, though they came 9:45. There are people who are seated here who will earn only to Google their way to their next job, constantly on social media, permanently on other people's timelines, earning money that they want to use to buy what they don't need, to impress people they don't like. There are people seated here who would always violate the traffic light, who will be unkind to law enforcement agents, who have never paid their taxes, and they have been in business earning from Nigeria's economy. So until we stand up from this conversation and say to ourselves that we will be champions of the change that we want to see, we might have on paper, I'm constantly providing policy advisory for 7 African countries. Permit me to just put word out concerning one of these countries. Of all the African countries I'm working with, the country we have seen the fastest, most defining, what we call rapid and radical emergence of the outcomes, the development outcomes we're working on, has been Rwanda. Why? Because it's not just been about policy papers, white papers, executive will, political engagement. It's been about a people who individually perceive themselves to be champions and ambassadors of a future reality that they have seen and they are sold out to. Every time that you throw that gala rap out there, on the streets, every time that you violate the traffic light, every time that you lie to your boss, every time you don't pay your taxes, every time you use, foul language in conversing with your employee, every time you take 4 jobs, because that is one of the biggest crises of a globalized talent market. It's that you are working with an organization, but because it's remote and flexi working, you are also EA to your CEO's best friend, and you've taken a product management role somewhere. You are everywhere and you're dissipated. Every time we act that way, we are violating our national conscience, and that is not government's business. This is my submission.
Now, I hope we all observe that this is AOT, the art of technology, and the conversation is shifting to a core of our being, which is about culture. A quote comes to mind that I wanted to change the world. When I was young, I wanted to change the world, and I realized I couldn't change the world, that perhaps I can try with my country. And then I tried to change my country, and I could not achieve anything. Then I tried to change my state, I could not. Then I tried to change my family, and I could not. And I realized that the person I am supposed to pay attention to changing is the man or the woman in the mirror. My question, everybody, when you look at the mirror, who do you see? So it's again back to placing personal responsibility, taking personal responsibility for our change, for the thing that we're looking at. This is AOT, people, and I'm loving this. A round of applause for the hosts, the chief host, everybody that is making this happen. You know, I'm really liking this. Prof, that's Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundipe. We have 2 professors. This is a diverse panel, and I'm really liking it. I mean, you took it out of my mouth. You know, I'm just looking at everybody on the panel that this is really diverse. Prof, you gave us a powerful speech, you know, earlier in the conversation, which was great. I just wanted to ask a question. At the moment, you are chairman of Lagos State Science Research and Innovation Council. I just wanted you to tell us in one word, you know, what your organization is doing, you know, regarding this global talent conversation.
Thank you very much. For those of you who are around yesterday, you saw some of the students from some of our secondary schools that were given award for what they are able to develop in the area of innovation. And tonight at the gala night, some of the researchers in the higher institutions in Lagos will get their sponsorship in the area of research. And also for innovation, you have some of these young ones who are being funded by the LASTRIC, we call it LASTRIC, Lagos State Science Research Innovation Council. They are being sponsored to be given a startup grant, and some of them are doing very well now. We also have fund for STEM project, and somebody said yesterday, Nigeria is far, far behind in the area of STEM. We want to encourage you through this platform to visit our website. It's being sponsored by Lagos State government, and this present governor increased the funding from about 150 million in the past to over 250 million now. Wow. We want people to apply. We have the fund there, but we are looking for people to present a very good proposal. There's no free lunch anywhere, even in Freetown, I'm sure that you still need to do something to get support. So we are ready to fund people in the area of research, in the area of innovation, in the area of STEM, and other for the students in the secondary school. But I want you to please give me this permission to say something. If there's something you want to take away from this place, number one, something was mentioned about skill. There's that skill in you. that you need to make sure you ignite and make use of it. The second one is value. Value, somebody said, when we were younger and we are going to boarding house or we are going to the university, they always tell us, remember the child of whom you are. Please, that value is very important. The other thing I want you to take out of this place is communication. Many of our young ones, when they want to start making statements, they now say, like, no, as in, no. Because you don't want to respect the elders, that is why you are speaking English. You don't want to speak your common language to say, brother, so, sister, so. Well, you are permitted to speak English, but make sure that your communication skill, you brush it up every time, because you are going to use that to attract attention to yourself. The other thing I want you to leave here with is attitude. Your attitude is very key. Somebody said we don't talk about soft skill. Yes, I agree. But you need to develop that skill in you so that you will be able to compete locally and you'll be recognized globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I see that our time is up. I just wanted, in 10 seconds, DDK, how everybody can connect with you, and let's just go everyone.
Hello.
So can we just do that? 30 seconds, how can everybody connect with you? You couldn't share all 3 ideas you had, you only shared one, so how can they connect with you?
I think the easiest way would be on Instagram or LinkedIn, Debola Dijikurumi on all of those platforms.
Fantastic, great. Well, we are connected to you. We are connected to you, so Biola Ojo.
Okay, I think you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Biola Ojo, or People Capacity Management. Yeah.
Olumide Balogun on LinkedIn, or just send me an email, olub@google.com, and give me time to respond.
Okay, it's all right. You can connect with me at Dr. Abiola Salami on Instagram. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you, every one of us here. Prof, yes? Prof.
I think you can find me on LinkedIn. But again, I do try to be responsive. I do try to guide and advise. But I think sometimes what I would advise young people to is self-reflection is important, right? Let's not go out thinking that we're better than ourselves. A tone of humility, doesn't take anything away from you. We're all here. And I think when DDK was talking, Prof. Ogundikwe, I think the academic institutions help you go through the process, right? Yes. You can't wake up and become a professor. It takes you, there's effort you need to put in. There's rigor you need to put in. So, let's also realize that a lot of people see everybody sitting here like, oh, I want to be Tubosun, I want to be this. No problem. But please, earn your stripes.
So good.
That's all. Earn your stripes. And it's hard work. Listen to Tubosun's story of how he got to where he is. It doesn't happen overnight, all right? So please, let's not be in a hurry. Let's just realize that there is a time and place for everything. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm available on LinkedIn, Instagram. My name is Olayinka David West. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A big thank you to all our members of this panel. Please, can you please rise? Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, can we put our hands together for them?